average human has an attention span of just 8.25 seconds, 4.25 seconds less than in 2000. By the time I finish this sentence, someone will have clocked out. Bitch, that's scary. When I think about the future, there are two things that petrify me with fear more than anything else. The first is deep fake artificial intelligence technology. The second is the fact that people aren't reading. And I need everybody to be honest about it. Everybody across the political spectrum. I'm not talking about self-help books or YouTube video captions or Twitter threads or news headlines at the center of viral tweets. I'm talking about sitting your ass down and reading various sources, articles, essays, books on any given topic to form your own opinion over time. It's time for a rant. How many people already clicked away from this video, their attention span unable to continue? Are they reading? Are they keeping their brain trained to read long things? 54% of Americans between the ages of 16 and 24, according to data collected by the Department of Education, read below a 6th grade level. Please run that back. 54% of Americans between the ages of 16 and 24, according to data collected by the Department of Education, read below a 6th grade level. Per Forbes, level 1 adults struggle to understand text beyond filling out basic forms, and they find it difficult to make inferences from written material. Adults at level 2 can read well enough to evaluate product reviews and perform other tasks requiring comparisons and simple inferences, but they're unlikely to correctly evaluate the reliability of text or draw sophisticated inferences. Adults at level 3 and above were considered fully literate. They're able to evaluate sources as well as infer sophisticated meaning and complex ideas from written sources. 33% of adults are level 3 readers and 13% are level 4 and 5. While this study wanted to pinpoint how much money this is estimated to be costing the economy, $2.2 trillion a year, literacy matters to me and it should matter to you because the future depends on it. People are having passionate opinions and debates on things without knowing what the fuck they're talking about, and voting or not voting. Along with illiteracy impacting health and finances, people are illiterate about civics. In studies finding an overall decline, only 51% of Americans were able to name all 3 branches of government, and 52% of Americans can't name a Supreme Court justice. That means the people who can name what the branches do is even less than half. In the past, political regimes and religious institutions needed to burn books to prevent people from reading new ideas and challenging the prevailing order. Book burnings have happened since the 7th century BCE in numerous cultures, from the Jews to the Chinese to Christians, secular societies in Europe, and infamously during the Nazi regime. During the American enslavement of black people, reading was banned to keep the enslaved docile, ignorant, and hopeless. That was one of my biggest gripes about Kanye West announcing that he doesn't read, because illiteracy was used as a weapon before and after slavery, which, by the way, I'll always remind you, he said was a choice. Enslaved people risked their limbs and lives to learn and be taught how to read. Their descendants started schools and went door to door teaching people how to read and providing books. Being literate was something to be proud of because it was often a harshly won privilege. Books were the primary source of imagination and dissent. But in modern history, chipping away at the desire to read, the love of reading, is a little easier for the powers that be. We're often surrounded by books on library shelves, on 99-cent shelves at thrift stores, on Book Talk, at Barnes & Noble, at black-owned bookstores, and yet that 54% rears its ugly head because we're surrounded by other things as well. First, some people are dyslexic or have a disability that makes reading difficult. Mental illness and chronic pain can impact reading levels, which is why universal health care continues to be necessary. Second, people have to work and they have lives. I understand. Reading takes up a lot of time, and part of capitalism's function in keeping workers beleaguered and out of touch with real-world issues is by keeping them busy. If studying history was not my full-time job, it would be nearly impossible for me to read after working at another job. Plus, all these books I be reading are expensive as hell, not to mention the articles. And God, the newspaper subscriptions, there's a lot. So we need a rise in minimum wage, affordable housing, and 4-day work weeks and/or shorter work hours. Americans need leisure time so they can actually read. Next, library shutdowns, which have long been caused by austere public service budgets, are now happening in towns that are trying to ban Black American texts, race-critical texts, and LGBTQ books by any means necessary. While 54% of Americans read below a 6th grade level, 54% of the population are registered borrowers at libraries, which are more expensive to run than ever before. So threats and actual shutdowns serve the double blow of not only making books and internet services out of reach to poor people, but removing a free space for youth to go without hassle. I'm thankful that I had access to amazing libraries in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I could check out dozens of books at a time and get on the internet. Next, American schools are underfunded and understaffed, and generations of illiteracy are happening in places that have high minority populations. Mississippi, Texas, New Mexico, California, and Louisiana. I'm looking at y'all. Also, schools don't always provide stories that represent the students, making reading less enjoyable. Like, who the fuck wants to read about Holden Caulfield and Beowulf? Like, come on, all the time? No, can we please get some more stuff? Having representation in books can be as important as having a parent who loves reading and quality teachers who foster a love of reading. Shout out to my mom for reading to me, and to my nana for taking me to Books A Million regularly to cash out on whatever I wanted. They really fostered a love for reading within me. But I wonder if I would have taken to reading if I grew up the way a lot of kids do now, with free online content endlessly force-fed to you through an exploitative algorithm on your phone that you always have on you. Math and reading scores dropped significantly among American students during the past 3 years of the pandemic, while social media usage and isolation soared. That's the other big problem for youth and adults alike. Videos, especially short TikTok-sized ones, are reigning supreme. Americans spend an average 1,300 hours per year on social media, or 3.5 hours a day. That's why you're watching this video essay and not reading it. On social media, people with low literacy levels have become the primary audience of misinformation memes that are never followed up on with research and become the basis of their worldview. Other time is eaten up by video games. 214 million Americans play at least 1 hour a week, and nearly 10% play over 20 hours a week. And then there's TV. Americans average approximately 1,692 hours a year, or 4.6 hours a day. This is great for business because it's easier for companies to sell you products and for conglomerate media to support the state in videos, TV shows, and movies than it is in books, magazines, and newspapers. You can be sold a lifestyle and propaganda in content that is increasingly tailored to your psychological whims. Stuff that feels better than reading about tough truths, traumas, and hard solutions. Wrote James Baldwin, "You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. It was books that taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive, who had ever been alive." Which brings me to the final thing causing people not to read. It can be very heavy or depressing. I get it. It can also be boring for people who naturally don't have these interests. If you want to stick to fun fiction reads or business or fashion, that's better than never reading. You gotta keep your muscles fresh. But if you stick to those kinds of genres or never read at all, how can you engage in passionate current event, historical, or social debates about things you haven't informed yourself about? Sure, personal experience counts for something, and being a good person can be pretty intuitive, but politics and global issues aren't a flat one-dimensional Disney movie of pure good versus pure evil. There are gray areas that demand study past headlines, viral tweets, and personal feelings. How can you argue with experts and factual evidence as if your opinion holds the same weight? Do you know what a peer-reviewed article is? Why are you using self-help books as an intellectual foundation? The 48 Laws of Power, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and The Art of War do not make you an expert on drug policy, mass incarceration, and systemic poverty. And yes, I've read those books. Joe Rogan and No Jumper podcast don't make you an expert on shit, and neither do Daily Vosh or Hassan streams. Why are you looking at the quote tweets on a viral post, forming an opinion from what seems to be the prevailing sentiment, and then writing your own version in the hopes of going viral? This is in addition to people who cannot read simple social media posts and end up making arguments out of nothing. Have you noticed in online spaces that a lack of comprehension causes hostile misunderstandings and aggression? Wow, I love pancakes. What's wrong with waffles? Nothing's wrong with waffles, I just like pancakes. Bitch, that's violence. My YouTube comments are proof of these misunderstandings every day. Just last week, some guy who tried to refute the exploitative realities of American capitalism told me that his latest reads included Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, The Mamba Mentality by Kobe Bryant, and Republic by Plato. If his reading list was not merely made up of whatever looked appealing on a So You Love Thomas Sowell infographic, it included nothing about modern history or politics. politics? How many people are walking around with a politic and historical perspective that is limited to the most privileged and/or antiquated viewpoints? I readily admit that new things aren't automatically good, but that's the importance of reading a lot. Any old idea that is actually good can successfully stand up to new ideological challenges, and vice versa. Reading new stuff on old topics keeps you fresh. It keeps you able to synthesize information on your own. And this is why I always link readings to my videos, because I hope people go deeper and don't just rely on me or any other video essays. From that same shoddy list, the commenter listed the autobiography of Malcolm X, which is a classic, but like it's not gonna tell you everything about modern politics today, honey. I'll quote him though. While in prison, he taught himself literacy by copying the dictionary page by page. He wrote, "Anyone who has read a great deal can imagine the new world that opened. I never had been so truly free in my life." He's telling y'all, read a book. Read a book. To be clear, there is no principled or long-lasting revolution happening without more literacy and informed thinking. In addition to reading more, people must be able to discern what is fact, what is opinion, and how to place all kinds of facts and opinions into a broader geopolitical and social context. We need to make the knowledge in books more accessible to bridge the gap for people who can't or don't read often. Not every book needs to be long as fuck, and endless academic jargon is played. This video is not to call anybody out, just to explain the problem we are seriously facing in the internet age. And I will give you a silver lining, because so far this shit has been negative. The silver lining is that while just 46% of the population reads above the 6th grade level, book buying has gone up. Per Fast Company, print sales reportedly rose 8% in 2020, one of the biggest spikes in decades, and rose again in 2021. That softened last year, but sales remain above 2019 levels. But it kind of matters what the fuck people are reading. Are they reading Charlemagne the God books and Jordan Peterson and Ayn Rand? What kind of books are we talking about here? Anyways, I see this massive illiteracy problem getting worse. I'm not gonna hold you. I'll keep distilling academic text into videos, and in the process charting my own historical research for people who don't have the time or desire to read. I love what I do, but from a big picture perspective, literacy rates will continue to be impacted by the factors I listed, and compounded by new technological advances, culture wars, and a declining attention span. When mixed with people's propensity to remember the first piece of information they hear about a topic, even if it's wrong, the fast-paced reality of news in a global world, and the way people misremember or forget recent events entirely, I think we're more than a little fucked. You remember how I said deep fake artificial intelligence scares me more than anything? It's looking real dystopian around here. In the coming months, I'd like to dive into the ways that we consume media, particularly social media, reality TV, and celebrity culture. In the meantime, tell me the last book you've read or the next book you plan to read. Also, you can check out my book, Angry Black Girl, over on my website or Amazon. Yes, that was a shameless plug. But if you like this rant video, be sure to give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.